Good morning, Spiritual Life Center. Welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. We're so glad you're here. This is week 6 of Faith in Action. You're in the right place at the right time.
Just where you were meant to be, whether you're live streaming or here in person. Let's sing about it.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be.
In the right place,
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Good morning to those live streaming. You are in the right place at the right time.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome.
Oh, my soul is welcome.
Oh, my soul is welcome here.
You know that you're welcome here.
I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to the Spiritual Life Center Experience once again.
Introduce Reverend James Trapp, Reverend Deborah Phillips, and we greet you this morning in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred, and in the warm and loving energy of this ministry, Spiritual Life Center. If you're with us for the very first time today, we especially want to welcome you, and if you are live streaming for the first time today as well, because we know that you are not here by accident. Every one of us is here by
Divine appointment.
And we're just thrilled to have you with us today. And we are also really thrilled when you turn off your cell phones, or at least to silence them.
Now that we created that clearing to connect to the presence, let's commune with this presence for a moment. And remember that it is around us and is our very life and being. It contains all the qualities that we could ever hope for, want, or desire. But more importantly, because we are inherently connected to this presence, all the qualities of this presence are also part of us. The peace that passes all understanding, the health, the wholeness, the wisdom. We're grateful for the opportunity to be the vessels and the vehicles of this presence. And as we make it the activity of our awareness, through the thoughts we have, the words we speak, and every action that we take, we begin to radiate from the depth of our being these qualities into our world. And so we go forth with appreciation and thanksgiving as we anchor a little bit more of this good in our life and in our world. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Well, formally tomorrow is Veterans Day, but we're celebrating it today. We'd just like anyone who was a veteran to please stand. We want to acknowledge you. And we also have a song for you. And we're going to ask you to do a little something different just to remain standing, because we got a special song dedicated just for you. And David DeMario, along with our second slice, is going to present to you, God Shed Your Grace on Us.
Many came for freedom, many fought for faith, many came because they saw the hand of God's own grace. Many came with nothing but dreams upon their face. Many came because they found a refuge in this place. But somewhere we lost sight of you and the guidance of your hand. We have sacrificed our faith in God for the selfishness of man. God, shed your grace on us, restore our hope, rebuild our trust, pour out your grace and mercy on this land. God, shed your grace on us with all that you call good and just. By your amazing grace, help us to stand. God, shed your grace upon this land. Built on one foundation, one nation under God, one freedom bought and paid for by one sacrifice for all. Holy God, we seek your face and the guidance of your hand. For without your grace and mercy now, how will this nation stand? God, shed your grace on us, restore our hope, rebuild our trust, pour out your grace and mercy on this land. God, shed your grace on us with all that you call good and just. With our amazing grace, help us to stand. God, shed your grace upon this land. In this time of need, God, as we wail with all our face, every choice we make from now, we ask, pour out your grace, your grace. God,
Okay, I don't think I've had a Veterans Day celebration quite like that before. David DeMario, wonderful job, second slice. So I think everybody's awake now. Each week we've been affirming and speaking aloud the 5 basic unity principles, so we can share that with anyone else that asks us, what does unity stand for? What are our principles? So I invite you to join in and saying together these words with me. God is absolute good and everywhere present. People are inherently good. Thoughts create our experiences. Prayer and meditation are how we connect with God. We must take action.
And this coming Wednesday, we have a Talk the Walk interview series, a segment. I am going to be interviewing Teresa Campos, and I know many of you have taken classes with her. This is your opportunity to find out what was going on behind that magic curtain. And her question that she's going to try to answer is, why didn't I wait for God? So we will have soup at 6, and we will start the service at 7.
Okay, and I'm sure we'll find that God is always on time. It's just us that maybe need to adjust our schedule. But right now I have Celia. She's going to share a little bit about our podcast rollout. I would say Celia and George just will be coming here soon.
Yes, the big announcement is he's due December 7th. No, I'm just checking. Yeah, I am so excited to tell you guys, we are officially a podcast. So, really quickly, how many people either know what a podcast is or listen to a podcast currently? Okay, fantastic. So, basically, what we've got is we are already on several platforms. We're on Spotify, we're on Podbean. So if you are a Spotify user like I am and drive around town listening to James's messages, you can now do that with me. So we will be on Apple Podcasts about midweek, and then we are on Google Music Play, but Google Podcasts, we're waiting to find out when we're going to go live with them. So if you have any questions or if you want to subscribe, go to our website, slcworld.org, click the Watch Listen button. And first of all, it's going to direct you to where you can find us live streaming, and then we also have all of the links to all of the different places you can listen to us. So no matter what platform you're on, you should be able to listen to us. The really exciting news is that right now what we're doing is we're sharing our messages. So you're getting James's message with the wonderful jingle that Paula and the music team have put together. It gets stuck in my head like Spiritual Life Center. Yeah, gets stuck in there. Anyway, so come the beginning of 2020, we're also going to be rolling out our meditations. And that's going to be for people who are subscribers, who are supporters. Go online, find out how you can take advantage of this great resource and listen to us every week. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. And George. Spreading the word in the new era that we're in today.
And so many of you are familiar with the giving tree that we have in the courtyard every Christmas, where there are stars and there's names of different children with their Christmas wish list. And that will start on November 24th through December 15th. And the reason we're talking about it today is this is the Windspring Family Resource Center that we do this in conjunction with. And they are providing, as a thank you, the refreshments in the courtyard today. So there's lots and lots of goodies out there. So thank you very much.
Yes. Just want to let you know, on December the 8th, Garland Landreth will be with us for a Sunday talk, as well as a 2-part workshop and individual one-on-one appointments. And many of you may know him if you saw the movie several years ago, What the Bleep Do We Know? And this video he's going to show right now will give you a little bit more about his workshop and what's going to be taking place.
Hi, I'm Garland Landreth, and you might have heard of my research in the movie What to Bleep. And in that movie, we talked about how we took 4,000 transcendental meditators into Washington, D.C. and actually reduced the crime rates while we were there. Now, in this seminar, what you'll be learning is how to create the life of your dreams by using cutting-edge techniques combined with quantum field technology. Now, to date, I've probably taught well over 30,000 people how to manifest the life of their dreams. And one of the questions I always ask in all my seminars is how many people know what their problems are, but they keep making the same mistake over and over again? And of course, everybody raises their hands. Well, that's not your fault. These are simply old brain pathways that are structured in your subconscious that have been holding you back. And so what we're going to do in this seminar is teach you how to create an entirely new brain matrix. That is by combining these three amazing techniques. First one is EFT and tapping. The second one is Ho'oponopono. And the third one is heart math. The new frontier in energy work is the subconscious. In fact, Bruce Lipton and Deepak Chopra both said that unless we can somehow clear out the subconscious, we're not going to be able to manifest very well. And remember this, if you are wanting something, you're attracting lack because you don't have it. So what we're going to do with these techniques is teach you how to gain inner abundance so that you attract outer abundance to you. And it works beautifully. These techniques are cutting edge, and I've seen them work over and over again. I'm excited about helping you on your journey.
And that'll be December the 8th with Garland Landris. So Manifest Your Dream Seminar and Workshop. And I'd like to acknowledge the ambassadors, any board of trustees that are here this morning, as well as our prayer chaplains, if they would stand. And the ambassadors, of course, are wearing the rainbow ribbons, and they can answer questions that you may have about Spiritual Life Center, point you in the right direction, and answer questions that you may have about getting involved in our community. So we thank them for bringing their ambassadorship and the consciousness to our community. Our board of trustees that are present are wearing purple ribbons on their name badges, and they provide the guidance to set the strategic direction of our community, and they bring high skill sets, consciousness, and their time and their talent to help us move from where we are to where Spirit knows we can be. And so we appreciate all of the work that they do, and they're also available to help you answer questions that you may have about them. And then, of course, we have our prayer chaplains, and they hold confidential prayer for our community as a whole on an ongoing basis. And particularly today, if you have something you'd like to have prayed for, if you're going through a challenge, they will hold a high watch for you. Or if you just want to have something that you want to celebrate and bring it to the next level, they'll bring that extra energy to you for it. And they're available to pray with you right after the service here in the sanctuary or in the courtyard. So we thank them for bringing their prayer consciousness to Spiritual Life Center.
And if you're here for the very first time, in a moment we're going to ask you to raise your hand, but we want you to know there are many ways to become connected here at SLC. The people that Reverend James has just introduced are a good start. We will also be giving you a card that you can fill out legibly, we hope, and you can put that in the offering basket, or you can take it right outside around the corner to the welcome table, and if you do that, they have a very special gift for you.
So if you're here for the very first time, we just invite you to raise your hand. Any first-timers here this morning, thank you for it. Just keep your hand up, and we'll have somebody come to you, and we'll give you the card that you can fill out, as well as a purple ribbon that we invite you to wear on the left side of your body that's near your heart. And we can also give you a special Spiritual Life Center greeting, because we can identify you as an individual who has brought your consciousness and your uniqueness to our community this morning. And we thank you so much for your presence here at Spiritual Life Center. And with that, I invite you to greet someone here for the first time, as well as each other, and just let them know you are marvelous and glad you are here.
So many have so much to say. To find your bliss, you have to deal with what gets in the way. You don't have to be a chameleon just to feel like you belong. Standing firm on sacred ground, you are resilient and strong. Just let your story be told. Be authentically bold, beautifully imperfect as you gently unfold. Speak your truth, raise the roof, brave enough to share, it'll take you there. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm all in, I'm all in. Wherever I am is where I begin. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whenever I feel my heart opening, I'm all in, I'm all in. When the shame storm stirs the darkness, blowing up all your stuff, you're left standing in a puddle of I'm not good enough. You try to hold on to your footing on those shifting shores of shame, gazing across the swampland, looking for someone else to blame. You know the pain of shame and the blaming game are two sides of a mirror that are one and the same. Shake it out, shout out loud, say it in a prayer, it'll take you there. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm all in, I'm all in. Wherever I am is where I begin. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whenever I feel my heart opening, I'm all in, I'm all in. I'm all in, I'm all in. Whoa, I'm all in, I'm all in. I said I'm all in. These are the gifts of imperfection. I'm all in. Living and laughing and loving and playing along. I'm all in. Hey, I'm all in. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm all in. Whenever I feel my heart opening, I'm all in.
Please be seated.
Well, we continue to go all in with our Faith in Action series, and part of that is to have our resident artists to present their artwork that gives a artistic representation of the topic for each week. And today we have two wonderful artists, Carolyn Cochran, as well as Paul Sanchez, who have done some wonderful work, and I'm going to share their words about their work. I'm going to start out with Carolyn, and she has written the title to her piece is Playful Spiral. And she writes, I really resonated with Brene Brown's statement that play is rest. This describes how I feel when I am doing my art. It is restful, and I am having fun creating something. Any kind of play can create that restful feeling, that experience when time stands still and you are just in the joy of the moment. Brene Brown also talks about calm and stillness and states that stillness creates a clearing, an emotionally clutter-free space. In my artistic process, it is often in the stillness that the ideas come and my perspective shifts. In this carved and embellished gourd, the turquoise stone in the center represents the stillness and the quiet beginning of the creative process. The creativity or play begins to spiral out and grow from the stillness in the center. Each layer represents all the different textures and variety that life and playfulness has to offer. With this piece of art, I really focused on the joyful process of creating and surrendered to allowing it to be what it wanted to be. I had fun. Playful spiral. And our next artist, Paul Sanchez, and this title of his piece is Everest Dreams. And here's what he writes. We cultivate play and rest while letting go of exhaustion and productivity. Play is not an option. It is a biological need. We can detox from limiting voices of that tell us what we are too busy to play, or that exhaustion is a status symbol of hard work. In this painting, we are invited to enter the so-called other world of the lucid dreamer, where dreams no longer stick to rules, where up is down and down is up, where miracles are no longer miracles, but everyday occurrences expected all the time. Imagination is reality. You find the fun in work and let go. You are the dreamer and you are flying. You are playing. Ascending Everest is no longer considered impossible, hard work, or even an elusive bucket list item. You, the dreamer, are still, calm, balanced, and renewed. It is playtime, and you are free to ascend. Paul Sanchez, Everest Dreams.
And now, to accompany that beautiful artwork, let us speak together our affirmation for this week. I cultivate play, rest, calm, and stillness by releasing exhaustion, productivity, and anxiety as a way of life. I am balanced and renewed. And now let's also read our vision statement together. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions, weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom. We cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
And in preparation for meditation, I invite you to take a nice deep breath and settle into your chair. And please join us in singing. All is as it should be. I mirror you, you mirror me, and all the pain and struggling
As we move into this time of interconnection, take a deep breath and just let it go. Relax into your chair. Feel your arms and legs just relax and let go. Relax your eyelids. Take another gentle breath and let it go. And now, simply breathe naturally and allow yourself to drift up into a light daydream. You're standing in front of a very tall hedge, and it goes forever in either direction. But then you see that there is a small opening, and so you step through the hedge, and you realize that you've actually stepped into a maze. It's not what you were expecting, but you decide to walk the maze with confidence. The path through the maze is made of stone. It is made of polished, colored stone, and it sort of glistens as you walk along. And you take a turn, and then another turn, and then you come to one of those dead ends. Your first reaction is to feel lost and to fight and to think it through, and then you just stop and you listen and you watch. And as you turn around to go back the other way, you notice that the path is starting to glow, the different colors of stones coming up and glowing. And you take this as a sign that this is the path to take. And so you follow it for a while, and then you become distracted and you run into another dead end. And so you stop and you listen and you watch. And you look down and the path begins to glow again. And you follow it, following the colored stones as they lead you safely through this maze. And then you come around a corner, and it's like you're ended up in the middle of the maze. And the air is filled with a rainbow of light. Colors swirl all around you, and the light enters your body, merging with every atom, every cell, until you too become sparkling, dancing light. And as you are immersed in this loving, healing light, you take it in the silence. This loving light is part of you now. And as you take a step to make your way out of the maze, you look around and the tall hedge is gone, and you realize that you're actually in the center of a labyrinth that has one path in and one path out. You can see now that there were no real blocks in the path. The twists and turns were simply the pattern of the labyrinth taking you back and forth, helping you release fear, helping you to release trying too hard. showing you how to listen to your divine guidance, filling you with love. So now you follow the shining stone path gracefully, lovingly, to wend your way back to the entrance of the labyrinth. And as you get to the end of the path, you turn to face the labyrinth, then you acknowledge it with wisdom, with great gratitude for the lessons of release, the lesson of listening, and the inner wisdom you have gained, and especially for the love that overflows your soul. Your light body now begins to coalesce into your dream body. And as you settle into your physical body, receive this blessing. Oh, my beloved, allow your life to be guided by pure love that dwells within you. Love is always with you. Love never fails. Love is all there ever was. Love is all there ever will be. Since there is only love, you must also be love. Remember this, always.
Though I may see 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, I will always remember this time is only borrowed from the one eternal source to which all must return, and whatever life may bring, I am always perfectly, divinely guided to the next right thing.
second slice, doing it again. Another one. Well, welcome to our 6th week of Faith in Action, based on Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. As I was thinking about what to share this week about her thoughts on working to exhaustion and calmness and stillness, I hearkened back to the time that I was in college, and there was a classmate. He was very, very bright. He did very well. He was one of those individuals that, graduated magna cum laude. It's like the top of the class, and, I was nowhere near that. I was more like, thank you, Lordy. Thank you, Lordy, for getting me out of here, getting me through. And so I thought I'd follow his lead, during, what we used to call the reading period, just before exams, where you go to the library and you study a lot, just to get ready. And I said, well, I'm just going to try to keep up with him step for step. So I'd go in, he'd be in the library before breakfast, and I said, okay, I'm going to get there, I'm going to be there. And I stay there for a couple hours. It was breakfast time, and he'd still be there. I go to breakfast, I come back, and he's still there. And then I hang with him till lunchtime, and I said, man, does he eat? Because I got to go eat some lunch. And I'd go eat lunch, and he'd come back, and man, he was still there. Then I come back after lunch, and he's still there, and I'm trying to hang with him moment for moment. Dinner time, and then he never seemed like he never left. And I said, man, did this guy ever eat? So I did that for a few days and realized I couldn't keep up with him. But he worked really, really hard. But I never saw him smile. And he graduated like in 3 years, and I think he went to graduate school and finished that early. And I didn't see him again, of course, until like 15 years later, one of our reunions. And he had gotten completely out of his field. He decided that he was going to just stop what he was doing, where he was working these 100 hours a week, and buy him a little vineyard up in upstate New York, and just produce wine and artwork. And he realized that, because I used to say to him from time to time, I said, man, even God took off after 6 days of creating the universe, though it's not really true, but, I'm just trying to get him to lighten up a little bit. But over time, he realized that it was not about working by the sweat of your brow. And I think he received that message at some point. He got it. And he realized that he could create a new definition of what success was for him. And he stopped buying into the idea that he had to work himself to exhaustion in order to prove his worth. He had a revelation. It was something that was coming to him that says there's something more to life that's you don't need in order to establish your status or your worthiness. And I think all of us have this calling within us that's saying, at some point we may say, come on out and play. There's a calling that's coming to us. I remember one time I used to have an office, and I had some plants, real plants, not fake plants, and they were like right near where the window was. They had a big plain guy, a little window that had glass that the sunshine came through. Okay, anyway, I'm trying to keep it up. And it wasn't right in the path of the sun. It was like to the side. And I remember I used to go by there, and every once in a while I would see the plants leaning over, trying to get some of the sun. And I think the universe is calling us to lean into that joy that's always there for us. Brene Brown says that there's a yearning, a calling. It is something that she calls wholehearted living people have in order to live from a sense of worthiness. And she said that yearning is that sense of play, which is the core of creativity, the core of our innovation. This being a Veterans Day weekend, I remember reading a while back about in ancient times there was a leader of his army. And he would recruit people to become part of his army. But he said he would only bring people into his army who knew how to sing and knew how to dance. He seemed to think that they would make better soldiers by being part of his platoon. Because I think we realize that if we look at the work of Brene this week, that we're not just here to materialize and to produce and work by the sweat of our brow in order to prove to the world how worthy we are. Brene says that wholehearted living people engage in creative play and creative rest. And they do it for no reason at all, just for the heck of it. They don't have to have a purpose. You know, I had a teacher one time that spiritual teacher said that the enlightened work from their rest. In other words, the enlightened rest, literally work from their rest. You know, they work, and then they rest. But he said I got it backwards. Back up, James. Back this thing up. He said the unenlightened rest from their work. In other words, they work, and then they rest. But he said the enlightened work from their rest. In other words, they begin to get into that playful mode first. They connect to their meditation first. They lay that as the foundation first. And then they go out and do the work. I think there's something here that's always seeking to be expressed. I often believe that, depression that we may have from time to time is a result of not expressing the creative play that is within us. I've been sharing throughout this series that when I was in this rehab center called Concept House, that I used to set aside a time that, after we had gotten serious about our recovery and groups and sharing, which can be a lot of work, it can be exhausting, they created a time for creative play where people would come out and they would maybe do some poetry, or they may do some singing, or they may be an artist, or they may dance. And so everybody had to do it. It was not an option. And so I recall, I said, I don't really know what to do, but I decided, I'm going to do some stand-up comedy. And I remember one time, when you're there, you don't have a lot of distractions. Not a lot of music or TV. Every once in a while, play foosball. That was in the old days, no video games. And I remember just watching all the events that took place at the center. And one of the jobs that we used to have to walk around at night just to protect the property because we were in a kind of a bad area. And then what they would do, they would give everybody a baseball bat when they were on duty, as if that was going to scare somebody off. And so I'm walking around doing my duty that night, and I remember I saw a possum out in the yard, and the possum was right next to some barbells and some weights. And, the possum was there looking at me, and I was looking at him. He was looking at me, looking at him. And, I could hear him saying to me in so many words, "What you gonna do with that bat?" I took 2 steps toward that sucker. Next thing I know, he grabbed the barbell, started doing some lifts, about 150 pounds each. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm going to back on up." But I took some of the things that were happening in the community just to share with them, a creative way just to lighten the load, so to speak. And I expressed a part of me I didn't know was there. I think when we engage in play and creativity, it moves us from working until we're exhausted just for lifestyle, just for status, into wholehearted living that Brene talks about. And there's some great qualities that we want to bring out of play and rest that sometimes are pushed into the background. It seems as though individuals sometimes on a feverish pitch to see who can out-exhaust the other person, to have more, to get more. Coming from a consciousness of saying that we have to get more materialism, particularly in this world, in the Western world. I think what seems to be falling behind are the basic qualities like rest and creativity and play. I had another classmate who was contacted me who was in Silicon Valley, the technology capital of the world, in another place where extreme examples of engaging in overwork. And that, for many of them, it was a badge of honor. Who could stay there? Because they have like sleeping bags in their places. They're staying overnight, working all kinds of hours. But he seems to say that the tide is turning. We can see where many of them realize that that's counterproductive. And they have times where people can go for mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, and all of those things. Because what it does, it begets energy when we do these things. It does not consume more energy. So one of the things they begin to understand that we have to have that into our life experiences. One of the things I realize is that when you look at all of those hours and working, it's because some people think that they have to work so hard for a living. You know, I think I heard something earlier. I can't remember who was saying. Oh, it might have been Garland. He was talking about sometimes when you chase after something, what happens is that you actually chase it away. And so sometimes I think about when it comes to working excessively hard, that a lot of people think they need to do that in order to survive in the world, but scientifically in the physical realm, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And if we try to really work hard for something in the physical life, sometimes we get the opposite. In the mental realm, if we run after something we believe that we do not have, we ultimately chase it away. Similarly, if we try to get rid of something that we don't like, it persists. What we resist persists. So on the physical and mental plane, what we get an equal and opposite reaction. In the mental and physical realm, the harder we work, sometimes the harder it is. I've been thinking about like an athlete at times when they said they're at their best when they're relaxed. And they're able to do their best when they're not trying to make it happen, but they're just getting into a flow of relaxation. And I think when we interject rest and play and creativity in our daily living, there is no opposite reaction. You know, Brene says in her book, sometimes we just have to say no, to buck the system. Take something off your to-do list. In fact, I say sometimes you got to have a not to-do list. This is I'm not going to do. And so you put your not to-do list, and then on your list, take a nap from time to time. I do that every once in a while. It really makes a big difference. You know, Brene talks about this week the importance of cultivating a wholehearted living, or living from that sense of worthiness. And in order to do that, we have to let go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Some of you may know, but years ago, you know, I practiced law in Florida, and I did some criminal defense work. And earlier in my career, I was representing a young teenage client who was charged with like 8 serious felonies. And of course, like all my clients, he was innocent. And if he was convicted, he was going to go to prison for a long time. And of course, he elected to go to trial. And most trial lawyers would tell you this, that the most anxious moments of a trial are not during the legal proceedings itself, but the most anxious moment is from the time that the jury leaves to go into the jury box to the time they come back with the verdict to hand to the clerk. That is the most anxious moment. And as I look back, I wonder why I had so much anxiety while I was waiting for that pronouncement from the clerk. Because other than the jury deliberating, all anyone was doing was waiting. It should be very relaxing at that point. But part of my anxiety was the anticipation of not knowing the outcome. However, I realized that the major reason there was stifling anxiety was that I had no control of what was going on at the moment. And that lack of control sometimes was directly correlated to that anxiety that we often felt. You know, there's a philosophy called Stoicism, an ancient Greek philosophy, and some people follow it as a spiritual path. It's helpful in helping us overcome that kind of anxiety. You know, the Stoics note that to reduce anxiety, it's important to make a distinction between what we can control and what we depend upon others to do that is beyond our control. You know, of course, you know, as an attorney, has control over trial preparation and researching and developing their arguments and all of that stuff. On the other hand, you have absolutely no control of what the jury does once it enters into that box to deliberate the verdict. And no one has any say-so what they do behind those doors. And the Stoics would say, during that moment where you have no control, let that go. And it will reduce your anxiety. Harder to do than say. Harder to say. Easier said than done. See, I can't even say it. It's so anxious for me. In many of our life experiences, we have control over some of the processes, but we don't have control over the outcomes. As a result, we do the best we can to cover the parts that we have power over, and we should let the rest go. By letting the rest go, we can reduce unnecessary self-inflicted anxiety. You know, if you have a business and you're trying to sign up a client, that may be beyond your control. But creating the best proposal as possible and presenting it in the best way you can, you do have control over. You know, I was thinking about some people who write best-selling books. They can't control whether it's going to be a bestseller or not, but they can control about writing the very best book that they possibly can. You know, in my previous occupation, a lot of my lawyers and friends wanted to, get hired by the faculty at schools, and they don't have any control over that. Somebody in this part of the world, it's great to get hired by Berkeley or Stanford, but that's outside your control. The committee has that control. And I think once we make a distinction between what we can control and what we can't, we can release attachment to what we have no say-so in. And as a result, the anxiety level is reduced. As I was trying to summarize, what was being covered by Brene this week in our reading, I recall a story of a young man. He had lost his sense of joy. His life was in a constant state of anxiety. He was doing nothing but working all the time. And he went to a doctor. He was not a psychiatrist, just a doctor. And he said, "Doc, I've come to a dead end. Can you help me?" And the doc said, "I don't know. But let me ask you this question. Where were you happiest as a child?" And he said to the doctor, "I was happiest when I was at the beach. And there was a cottage there that I would go to every time I would go to the beach." And the doctor said to him, "Well, can you follow instructions for one day?" And the young guy said, "Well, I'm desperate, so I'll try anything now." And the doctor told him, "Well, drive to the beach and take a lunch with you. But don't take anything to read. Don't take any music to listen to, in your car. Don't take an iPod or your iPhone or whatever the case. Take nothing. Just take yourself." And the doctor gave him 4 prescriptions. He took his pad and he wrote some words on 4 sheets of paper. And he said, every 3 hours, at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 6 o'clock, I want you to take one of those prescriptions. And the guy thought he was crazy. He said, "You must be joking." And the doctor said, "When you get my bill, you'll see that I'm not joking." So the next day, the young man drove to the beach, and it was quiet. No one was there. And the first prescription at 9 o'clock, he took out, and it simply said, "Listen carefully." And at first, the young guy said, "You must be out of his mind. There's nothing here to listen to. There's no music. I don't have any news I can check out. Nobody's having any conversations. All I hear is the roar of the ocean. All I hear are the seagulls that are flying by and the occasional plane that comes overhead." But after he was there for a while, there was stillness. And his racing thoughts stopped, and his mind came at rest. He kept listening. And after he was listening for a while, it became so still, he began thinking bigger things than himself. He thought about things that he hadn't thought of before, that were beyond his so-called troubles. And he had a great deal of relief. And he relished in that consciousness for a while. In fact, he relished it until it came time for his next prescription at 12 o'clock. And he pulled the second prescription out, and the second prescription said, "Try reaching back." And he thought to himself, back for what? Why? But as he contemplated the question, he suddenly thought back to the abundance of happiness that he had forgotten that was past in his life. And he started thinking back to 20 years ago on his last fishing trip with his brother who had died in a war several years earlier. And he closed his eyes. And as he closed his eyes, he began to see his brother, and he recalled the humor that they had together, the joy that they had together, the playfulness that they had together. And he could see the eagerness in his brother's eyes. And he remembered the time they were fishing, and his fishing pole had caught a fish, and it was really big, and his pole bent so much, and they had such a joyous time. And he relished in that for a moment, and then in a flash, that memory was gone. But he had reached back, and he touched on a moment of happiness. And then it came to 3 o'clock for his third prescription. And up until that point, he said, well, these prescriptions from the doctor, they've been pretty easy for me to take. But when he read the third prescription, it caught him off guard. And the third prescription said, re-examine your motives. And he got a little defensive in that moment. And he said, what's wrong with my motives? I'm just trying to be successful. I'm just trying to keep up with the Joneses. I'm just trying to get security and recognition. And there was a small voice in his head that said, well, maybe your motives were not so good. Maybe he had lost something along the way. His work had become very calculated and ritualized. And he was focusing only on the rewards. And he's lost his sense of giving something, helping other people, and making a contribution. And he knew at some point that if his motives were not right, if his motives were wrong, nothing else would be right that he did behind that. He realized he had lost his purpose of serving others. And this led to nothing more than overwork, anxiety, and exhaustion. So he re-examined what his motives were. And at the time, his beach spending had come to an end. And he was thinking about what the doctor had given him up until that point, and he said, well, he was really pretty cunning to give me those prescriptions, to listen carefully so he can calm his frantic mind and slow it down, to try reaching back and to blot out present worry and touch happiness and joy that he had had in the past, and to re-examine his motives in order to align with his conscious and his higher self. And then it came to 6 o'clock, and he took out his last prescription. And that last prescription simply said this: write your troubles in the sand. And he let that last piece of paper prescription kind of blow away. And he picked up a seashell, and he knelt down to the sand, and he began to write his troubles in the sand on top of one another. And then, after he had written them down, he just walked away. He did not look back. He wrote his troubles in the sand, and then the tide came in, and his troubles were washed away. He had tapped into something of the stillness, and his life was so much better after that. So it is. Peace and blessings to you. And that's the end of that story. Well, next week, as we finish up our series, I'm going to talk about or give you exactly how to follow your bliss. I will figure that out by the time next week arrives. At this time, I invite you to take your gifts and your love offerings and symbolically raise it to the heavens and get into the flow of that principle that says whatever you give out comes back to you. And know that your giving is supporting this community that's a container for others to come to who are on their journey of transformation and moving from where they are to where Spirit knows that they can be, as well as helping our community support other mission-compatible organizations that are helping others with their own transformation through our community giving. So with that awareness, I invite you to say together with me our offertory blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
It's hard for me to let go, hard for me to breathe, thinking that I gotta control it all. I can feel my worry and anxiety when it's slipping through my fingers, and I know it. I've been losing my sleep, I've been losing my cool. I can feel my heart go boom, 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 staring at the ceiling, feeling like a fool. I'm going under and I know it, but I hear you whisper to me, if I lose my grip I can see that you are carrying me. I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go, oh, 'cause if I trust it, I can move with your flow, being carried in the current of your love. When I lean into your arms, you're enough, so I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go. Time for me to let go, time for me to breathe, knowing that he already holds it all. Time for me to turn down this anxiety, I can move to freedom in a moment. 'Cause when I let it all out, you're gonna lift me up. When I pour it all out, you're gonna fill my cup. You're holding out your arms and telling me to jump. 1, 2, 3, here I go, yeah. 'Cause I hear you whisper to me, if I lose my grip I can see you're always carrying me. I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go, oh, 'cause if I trust it, I can move with your flow, in the current, when I lean into it, no, I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go, letting go of my worries, and my need to control things, gonna take you at your word, and I'm gonna lay down all my burdens, letting go of my worries, and my need to control things, gonna take you at your word, and I'm gonna lay down all my burdens. Oh, I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go, oh, 'cause if I trust it, I can move with your flow, being carried in the current of your love. When I lean into your arms, you're enough, so I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it go.
Let it go, let it go, let it go. We're going to let go, let God, as we bless these tithes and offerings, knowing they're going to bless the givers and receivers on all levels of their being, as we go forth with play, joy, creativity, and so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Let's join together and sing together our peace song.
God has created
now, let us deepen that consciousness